When Thomas Bradley turned 40, he didn't throw a party or post a cheesy social media update. Instead, he took a walk through the neighborhood where he had lived for almost 20 years. His sneakers scuffed the cracked pavement of Maple Avenue as he passed the park where his kids used to play, the coffee shop where he proposed to his wife, and the small bookstore where he used to escape to feel young again. But on that chilly March morning, something shifted in him. He realized he was no longer trying to stay young. He was finally ready to be wise. Up until his late 30s, Tom had been chasing life the way most people do. Fast, hard, and with blind ambition. He had a decent job in tech sales, a mortgage, 2 teenage kids, and a marriage that was quietly fraying at the edges. He spent more time on LinkedIn than at the dinner table, more time in airports than in his own backyard. He thought being busy meant being important, and being important meant being happy. That illusion shattered slowly, piece by piece, starting the day his doctor told him his blood pressure was nearing dangerous levels and ending with a quiet moment when his 15-year-old daughter, Emma, asked if he'd ever sit through a full school play without checking his phone. It was like being slapped with the truth. Not all at once, but in a slow, unforgiving rhythm. Tom started to pay attention. Not to trends or market shifts, but to people, patterns, and himself. It took losing a couple of deals, sitting alone during Thanksgiving after missing his flight, and his wife Rachel telling him she didn't recognize the man she married anymore for him to finally take stock of what life had been trying to teach him all along. The first lesson he learned was deceptively simple. Health is everything. Without it, nothing else holds weight. No amount of professional success or financial security can replace the simple freedom of feeling good in your body. Tom began walking every morning, not to hit a fitness goal but to clear his mind. He swapped fast food lunches for home-packed meals. He started drinking more water and less alcohol. The result wasn't just weight loss or better lab reports. It was mental clarity. He noticed things he used to overlook. The way birds sounded in the morning, the softness of Rachel's voice when she wasn't stressed, and the way Emma lit up when he remembered something important to her. The healthier he became, the more present he became. And presence, he learned, was a rare and powerful currency. The second lesson was about time. Time is not just money, it's everything. When he was younger, Tom treated time like a resource he could always refill. He canceled family vacations for meetings, said, maybe next time, to game nights, and worked late thinking he was buying his family a better future. But time, he realized, doesn't bank. Passes. Quietly. Permanently. One evening, while watching old home videos, he saw himself in the background of a clip. Phone to ear, laptop open, while Emma took her first steps. He hadn't even noticed. That moment hit harder than any financial setback he'd ever had. So Tom made a new rule. If it doesn't matter in 5 years, it shouldn't ruin your day. He stopped obsessing over inbox zero and started prioritizing time with the people he loved. He took his son Jason fishing, even though neither of them caught anything. He watched reality TV with Rachel just because it made her laugh. And he made sure every "I love you" wasn't rushed or routine but meant like it did in the early years. Then came the third lesson, people. Relationships matter more than resumes. For most of his career, Tom had networked like a machine. Contacts, favors, references. He had a list of people he could call for a job lead but couldn't name 5 people he could call when he was hurting. That changed when his mother passed away. It wasn't the LinkedIn connections who showed up at the funeral. It was his college roommate, his old neighbor, and a high school teacher he hadn't spoken to in years. He started nurturing his real friendships. Not out of obligation but out of genuine love. He made calls without agendas, met people for lunch with no goal but connection, and forgave people he had held grudges against for decades. Lesson 4. Peace is more valuable than victory. Tom used to love to win. Arguments, negotiations, petty fights about who left the dishes in the sink. But winning, he discovered, is hollow when it costs you emotional energy and relationships. He learned to let things go. To choose being kind over being right. To say, "I understand," instead of "you should've." He began to view conflict not as a battleground, but as a chance to grow. This changed his marriage more than anything else. Rachel once told him, "I don't need you to fix everything. I just want to know you're here." That stuck with him. He started listening, not to reply but to truly understand. One of the hardest lessons came when Jason got into a fight at school. At first, Tom was angry, ready to discipline and lecture. But when Jason said, "You're never around anyway," Tom's heart broke. Not because it wasn't true, but because it was. Instead of grounding him, Tom took him for a drive. They talked, cried, laughed. That night, Tom promised to show up more. Not just physically but emotionally. He learned that vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the foundation of real connection. Then came the lesson about money. Money is important, but only up to the point it meets your needs. Beyond that, it's just numbers. Tom had spent too many years chasing bonuses, sacrificing sleep and peace to climb ladders that leaned against the wrong walls. He learned that financial freedom isn't about how much you earn. It's about how little you need to be content. He downsized his car, paid off debts aggressively, and stopped trying to impress people he didn't even like. What he gained in return was priceless. Freedom. Say no. Take breaks. To focus on what mattered. Perhaps the most profound lesson was this. Failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. Tom used to be terrified of making mistakes. He avoided risk, played it safe, and beat himself up over every misstep. But looking back, his greatest growth came from his worst failures. The job he lost in his early 30s. It led him to start a consulting firm that gave him flexibility later in life. The time he flubbed a big presentation. It taught him humility and preparation. Every setback was a setup for something better, when he chose to learn from it. One night, sitting by the fire pit in the backyard, Tom asked Rachel what she thought had changed most in him. She smiled and said, "You stopped living on autopilot." That stuck with him. He realized most people are alive but not truly living. Going through motions, following routines, avoiding discomfort. But real life, meaningful life, exists in the pauses, in the moments of discomfort, in the honest conversations and bold choices. Tom began mentoring younger colleagues, not about sales metrics or business strategies but about life. He told them the truth, that your 20s are for discovering, your 30s for building, and your 40s. Your 40s are for refining, for stripping away what doesn't matter, for becoming someone who doesn't just succeed but thrives, who lives with purpose, joy, and no hidden regrets. He started journaling every morning. Not paragraphs, just short truths. Time with family is never wasted. No one's coming to save you. Be your own hero. Joy is in the ordinary. These entries became little anchors for his day.